Good evening. This has been an eventful year in U.S.-China relations. In January, we made the transition to a new administration, hoping that a steady hand on the tiller of the ship of state might halt the downward spiral in our most important bilateral relationship. This has not been the case. Last year, we celebrated the 25th anniversary of the founding of the U.S. China Policy Foundation by Dr. Chi Wang. In my remarks on that occasion, I noted that the bilateral relationship is in the worst shape since we established diplomatic relations with the People's Republic of China in 1979. Sadly, the downward spiral has continued. In one of his first actions, Secretary of State Blinken endorsed the Trump administration's claim that the Chinese government is engaged in genocide against the Uyghurs in Xinjiang. The punitive tariffs on Chinese imports remain in place. The tone of the first high-level meeting between the two sides in Alaska was confrontational, with each side publicly lecturing the other on their perceived deficiencies. In Congress, the only issue on which there seems to be near unanimous bipartisan agreement is in denouncing China. The level of hostility is such that Asian Americans, not just Chinese Americans, are feeling the consequences as targets of random violence or insults in the streets. Never has the work of the foundation been more important. On the economic front, we still lack an economic strategy for the Asia-Pacific region. Progress in implementing the Phase 1 trade agreement with China, negotiated in the Trump administration, has stalled. Delinking of the two economies is continuing to progress. Supply chains are being rerouted to lessen their dependence on China. Some elements in our society are referring to American investors in China as traitors. Uncertainties over where the bilateral relationship is heading is complicating business decisions for American companies whose operations in China remain overwhelmingly profitable. The news is not all bleak. The recent virtual summit between President Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping was a step in the right direction. It at least temporarily improved the tone of our official interactions with China, which had deteriorated to a shocking degree. There were some positive accomplishments. The two presidents agreed to meet regularly to guide the relationship. The summit paved the way for the release of Huawei's Madam Meng Wanzhou, the resolution of some other hostage situations, and resumption of expanded media representation in each country. President Biden reaffirmed our One China policy, asserted we were not supporting independence for Taiwan, and declared we were not seeking regime change in China. The two leaders agreed to have conversations on strategic matters, reflecting American concern over the rapid buildup of China's nuclear arsenal. Possibilities for limited cooperation on climate change matters were reflected in a joint statement on climate change that was issued shortly before the summit. This is certainly better than nothing, but the big issues that affect the climate between the two countries need much more attention. The summit was unproductive on economic issues, and it revealed a significant difference in goals for the relationship. The Biden administration has defined three components of our ties with Beijing: competition, cooperation, and confrontation. Its preference seems to be for steady state competition as the goal, or what some are calling competitive coexistence. That's an important difference. We are emphasizing the competitive aspects of the relationship, while China prefers to play down the competition between the two countries. President Xi at the summit was insistent that the goal should be peaceful coexistence. My preference would be to aim high. The world needs China and the United States to work together to address urgent problems. The reality is that rivalry between the two countries is nearing the breaking point. On December 8th, in testimony before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, a Defense Department official stressed the strategic importance of Taiwan to the United States in language suggesting that U.S. national interests require that Taiwan be kept separate from the China mainland. Beijing for decades has emphasized that it will use military force to prevent the formal separation of Taiwan from China. The administration has not yet clarified the significance of this language. The U.S. position for decades has been that we will accept any outcome peacefully worked out between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait that is consistent with the will of the people on Taiwan. To depart from this position would put us on a path towards a conflict that would inevitably severely damage Taiwan's own interests as well as those of China and the United States. A key element of the U.S. position has been to oppose unilateral changes to the status quo in the Taiwan Strait. We need to weigh our actions and those of Beijing against that standard. The low level of media and congressional attention to this language indicates that there is inadequate understanding in the United States of the potential consequences of departing from the One China framework that has enabled Taiwan to democratize and prosper since 1979. This underlines the importance of the work of the U.S. China Policy Foundation, not in endorsing particular positions, but in promoting understanding of the issues at the core of the U.S.-China relationship, both in terms of their possibilities and their potential consequences. It is a tribute to the foresight of Dr. Chi Wang that he recognized this need a quarter of a century ago and established this nonpartisan, nonprofit organization to help create an environment conducive to managing bilateral differences and building patterns of cooperation that would enhance our respective national interests. The most important work of the Foundation lies ahead. Happy holidays.